The arrival. The council chamber station apex floated in the void between galaxies, a massive structure built from materials that predated most civilizations. It had witnessed the rise and fall of thousands of species over millions of years. Today, it would witness something entirely new. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering. Crystalline walls stretched upward into darkness, their surfaces reflecting the light of 1,000 worlds. The floor was smooth obsidian, polished perfection by time itself. Around the circular room sat representatives from every major power in known space. They had come to judge humanity. The collective mind occupied the eastern section. They were not individuals, but a hive consciousness spread across billions of bodies. Their representatives appeared as floating spheres of silver light, pulsing in perfect synchronization. They spoke with one voice, ancient and cold. They had existed for 12 million years and considered themselves the pinnacle of evolution. They had guided lesser species toward enlightenment or erased them when guidance failed. Across from them sat the Titaner Empire. These beings stood 4 meters tall, their bodies covered in armor-like exoskeletons that gleamed blue-black under the chamber lights. They were warriors, conquerors who had built their civilization on strength and dominance. Their military controlled 300 star systems. They respected power and despised weakness. Their leader, Commander Vex, watched the proceedings with eyes that glowed like molten gold. The Silent Watchers occupied the northern platform. No one knew what they truly looked like. They appeared as shadows wrapped in flowing robes, their faces hidden behind masks of pure darkness. They were observers, record keepers who had documented galactic history, since before most species had crawled from their oceans. They rarely spoke, but when they did, everyone listened. They had seen civilizations rise from nothing and fall into dust. They knew the patterns. Scattered throughout the chamber were dozens of smaller delegations. The aquarii floated in tanks of bioluminescent fluid. The chromid delegation consisted of beings made entirely of living crystal. The Vesh representatives were energy beings contained in magnetic fields. Every corner of the galaxy had sent someone to witness this moment. They were here to evaluate Earth. Humanity had achieved faster than light travel 3 months ago. The moment human ships had broken the light barrier, sensors across the galaxy had registered the event. According to the ancient laws, any species capable of interstellar travel must be evaluated. The Council would examine their history, their culture, their potential. Then they would assign a classification. Most species received Class 7 status. This meant restricted technology, limited expansion, and oversight by stronger civilizations. They would exist at the mercy of their betters. Some received Class 6, which granted slightly more autonomy, but still kept them under galactic supervision. Very few species ever achieved Class 5 or higher. Those classifications meant true independence, equal standing among the great powers. Some species received no classification at all. They were deemed too dangerous, too aggressive, too unpredictable. Those species were eliminated. The galaxy had no room for chaos. The chamber buzzed with conversation in 100 languages. Most delegates expected a straightforward evaluation. Humanity was young, primitive by galactic standards. They had only just discovered FTL travel. Their weapons were crude. Their technology was basic. This would be a quick assessment, followed by a quick decision. Class 7 at best. Elimination at worst. Then the sensors detected the human vessel approaching station apex. The ship was tiny, barely larger than shuttle. Its hull showed signs of damage, burn marks and dents that suggested a difficult journey. It carried no weapons, no shields, no defensive systems of any kind. It limped toward the docking bay like a wounded animal seeking shelter. Commander Vex made a sound that might have been laughter. "They send us a broken toy," he rumbled. His voice was like grinding stone. "Is this meant to impress us or insult us?" The collective mind pulsed softly. Insufficient data to determine intent. Analysis suggests incompetence or desperation. The Silent Watchers said nothing. One of them leaned forward slightly, as if paying closer attention than usual. The ship docked. The massive doors of the council chamber opened with a sound like thunder. Everyone turned to watch. They expected a full delegation. 50 humans, perhaps 100. Scientists, diplomats, military advisors, cultural experts. They expected speeches prepared in advance, gifts to curry favor, displays of respect toward their superiors. One human walked through the doors. Her name was Dr. Sarah Chun. She was 56 years old. Her hair was black with streaks of gray, tied back in a simple ponytail. Her face carried lines that spoke of years spent making difficult decisions. She wore a plain gray uniform with no insignia, no medals, no decoration of any kind. She carried nothing in her hands. No datapad, no gifts, no weapons. She walked into a chamber filled with beings who could destroy her world with a thought. She walked past creatures that had conquered hundreds of star systems. She walked under the gaze of civilizations that had existed for millions of years before her species had even discovered fire. She did not hurry. She did not hesitate. She did not look afraid. The chamber fell completely silent. Thousands of eyes, sensors, and consciousness nodes focused on this small figure crossing the obsidian floor. Her footsteps echoed in the vastness. Each step was measured, confident, purposeful. At the center of the chamber sat a simple chair. It was positioned lower than all the other seats, designed to make whoever sat there look up at everyone else. It was meant to remind new species of their place in the universal order. It was a symbol of hierarchy, of power, of a natural way things worked. Sarah reached the chair. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she looked around the chamber, meeting the gaze of every delegation that watched her. Finally, she sat down. Her back was straight, her hands folded calmly in her lap. Her expression was neutral, almost peaceful. The silence stretched on. It became uncomfortable. No one knew quite what to do with this strange human who had arrived alone and unafraid. Commander Vex was the first to speak. Where is your delegation, human? Where are your leaders, your advisors, your warriors? Do you not understand the importance of this gathering? Sarah looked at him directly. Her voice was clear and steady. I understand perfectly, Commander. Earth's governments could not agree on who should represent humanity. There were debates, arguments, territorial disputes. They would still be arguing now if I had waited for them to decide. So I came alone. The collective mind pulsed rapidly, a sign of confusion. You have no authority. You speak for no government. Your words carry no weight. That's correct, Sarah agreed calmly. I represent no nation, no government, no official body. I'm here as a scientist, nothing more. Then why are you here? The question came from one of the silent watchers. Its voice was like wind through empty corridors. Sarah took a breath before answering. Because someone needed to be here. Because when you judge humanity, you should at least have a human to look at. I've spent 30 years studying conflict resolution, another 15 studying interstellar law and galactic civilizations. I prepared for this moment since we first detected your signals 20 years ago. I came because I was ready and because no one else was. Commander Vex leaned back, his golden eyes narrowing. You are either very brave or very foolish human. Among my people, Sarah replied, those two things are often the same. One of the silent watchers raised a shadowed hand. The evaluation will begin. Dr. Sarachin of Earth, you will witness the examination of your species. You may speak in humanity's defense, but understand this. In 3 million years of evaluations, no species has ever changed their classification through words alone. Actions, capabilities, and history determine fate. Words are merely noise. Sarah nodded. I understand, but I'll speak anyway. That's what humans do. We speak even when silence seems wiser. The lights in the chamber dimmed. Holographic projectors hummed to life. The air above Sarah's head shimmered and transformed into images. The evaluation system, an artificial intelligence older than most civilizations, began its work. Species designation: human. Planet of origin: Earth. Solar system location: outer spiral arm, Milky Way galaxy. Evaluation protocol initiated. The images showed Earth as it was billions of years ago, a molten ball cooling in space. Then came water, simple life, evolution's slow march forward. The delegates watched with mild interest. This was standard for carbon-based species. Then came humanity. The AI displayed human history with ruthless efficiency. The first tools, the first fires, the first villages. Agriculture, writing, mathematics, art. Cities rising from plains and jungles. Empires spreading across continents. And the wars. Always the wars. The chamber watched as humans fought each other with stones, then bronze, then iron, then steel. They saw armies of thousands clash on ancient battlefields. They saw sieges that lasted years. They saw entire cities burn to ash. Primitive violence, Commander Vex observed. Nothing unusual. Most species passed through this phase. The images continued. Humans developed gunpowder, explosives, mechanized warfare. The scale grew larger. Millions died in conflicts that spanned continents. The delegates began paying closer attention. Then came the 20th century. The hologram showed World War I. Trenches stretching across nations. Millions of soldiers facing each other across muddy wastelands. Chemical weapons choking men in their trenches. Machine guns cutting down waves of advancing troops. For years of hell for minimal territorial gain. Estimated casualties, 17 million. The AI reported flatly. Duration, for years. Territorial changes, minimal. Strategic value, questionable. The collective mind pulsed sharply. Inefficient, wasteful. 17 million deaths for no measurable gain. Sarah spoke quietly. We learned from it. We built monuments to remember. We promised ourselves never again. The hologram shifted to World War II. 20 years later, the AI continued. Global conflict resumed. Estimated casualties, 70 to 85 million. Introduction of strategic bombing, mechanized armor warfare, and nuclear weapons. The chamber watched in silence as cities burned. They saw the mushroom clouds rising over Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They saw entire urban centers reduced to radioactive ash in seconds. Commander Vex stood up slowly. His voice was different now, cautious. They developed planet-killing weapons within decades of industrial revolution? Correct, the AI confirmed. Humanity achieved capability for self-extinction approximately 60 years after achieving powered flight. They built over 70,000 nuclear devices over the following decades. At peak armament, human civilization possessed sufficient weaponry to render their planet uninhabitable multiple times over. The chamber erupted in shock murmurs. Species communicating in electromagnetic pulses, quantum entanglement, and telepathy all expressed the same sentiment: disbelief. They nearly destroyed themselves, one delegate said. Why didn't they? Another asked. Sarah remained seated, her expression unchanged. She had known this moment would come. The AI continued displaying human history. The Cold War, the space race, landing on the moon just decades after splitting the atom. Medical breakthroughs that cured diseases. Computer networks that connected the world. Art, literature, music that explored the full range of human emotion. Between every war, there was peace. Between every destruction, there was creation. Between every act of hatred, there were acts of love. The evaluation was only beginning, but already the delegates were seeing something they had never encountered before. Humanity was not following any pattern they recognized. These creatures held contradictions that should have destroyed them, yet somehow those contradictions made them stronger. Sarah sat in her chair and waited. She knew what was coming next. The real assessment had not even started yet. The truth unveiled. The holographic display continued its relentless march through human history. The delegates watched in growing unease as the patterns became clear. Humanity was not merely violent or merely peaceful. They were both, simultaneously, without apparent conflict between these opposing natures. The AI showed humanitarian missions where soldiers who had killed enemies days before now carried wounded children to safety. It showed scientists who designed weapons of mass destruction also working to cure cancer and eliminate hunger. It showed nations that had fought brutal wars against each other forming alliances within a generation. Psychological profile analysis. AI announced, human behavior demonstrates unprecedented duality. Subjects display capacity for extreme violence and extreme compassion without cognitive dissonance. They form deep emotional attachments to family groups, tribal affiliations, ideological concepts, and even inanimate objects. They will sacrifice individual survival for abstract principles, including honor, freedom, justice, and love. The collective mind pulsed rapidly. Clarification requested. They die for concepts that have no physical existence. Correct. Human history documents millions of instances where individuals chose death over violation of their principles. This appears to be instinctive rather than learned behavior. Even young humans demonstrate this trait. One of the silent watchers spoke, its voice carrying a note of something that might have been wonder. They die for ideas, not for survival, not for reproduction, for ideas. Sarah finally spoke. We die for what we believe in because without our beliefs, we're not really alive. A human who abandons their principles to save their life has already lost what makes life worth living. Commander Vex was pacing now, his massive frame moving restlessly. Show me their military capabilities. Show me how they fight. The AI complied. The hologram displayed humanity's current military technology. Compared to galactic standards, it was primitive. Chemical propulsion rockets, kinetic weapons, nuclear devices that were powerful by Earth standards but laughable compared to what the Titaner Empire could deploy. Conventional military analysis, negligible threat. The AI reported. Human weapon systems are approximately 8,000 years behind current galactic standard. Their fastest vessels require months to cross their own solar system. They have no energy shields, no directed energy weapons, no quantum entanglement communication. Military threat assessment, 0.003%. Commander Vex snorted with satisfaction. As expected, primitives with crude tools. However, the AI continued, and something in its tone made everyone pay attention. Analysis of advancement rate reveals anomaly. The hologram displayed a timeline. Human species emerged approximately 300,000 years ago. For the majority of this period, advancement was minimal. Then, approximately 12,000 years ago, acceleration began. Agriculture, writing, mathematics, astronomy. 2,000 years ago, advanced engineering, complex political systems, intercontinental trade. 500 years ago, scientific method, global navigation, mechanical printing. 200 years ago, Industrial Revolution. 150 years ago, electromagnetic theory and applications. 100 years ago, aviation, radio communication, nuclear physics. 75 years ago, digital computing, space exploration, genetic understanding. 25 years ago, global information network, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering. 3 months ago, faster than light travel. The numbers hung in the air. Every delegate was calculating the same thing. The collective mind pulsed so rapidly it looked like a strobe light. That's impossible, someone said. No species advances that quickly. The collective mind required 8 million years to achieve FTL capability. AI stated. The Titaner Empire required 12,000 years. The Silent Watchers required 47,000 years. Humanity required 122 years from power flight to faster than light travel. The silence that followed was absolute. Every being in the chamber understood what those numbers meant. Humanity wasn't just dangerous because they were violent. They were dangerous because they were accelerating at a rate that defied all known patterns of development. Show projection. Commander Vex demanded, if they continue at this rate, where will they be in 100 years? 1,000 years. The AI created a new hologram. It showed probability curves, technological trees, expansion patterns. The projections were disturbing. In 100 years, humanity would likely match current galactic military technology. In 500 years, they might surpass it. In 1,000 years, they could potentially challenge even the collective mind. These projections assume continued exponential growth. The AI noted. However, human history suggests they excel specifically during crisis periods. External pressure accelerates their advancement. Threat response is exceptionally robust. Sarah watched the delegates absorbing this information. She saw the fear beginning to take root. This was the dangerous moment. When fear controlled decisions, terrible things happened. One of the smaller delegates stood. It was a Vesh, a being of pure energy contained in a magnetic field. The solution is obvious. We must classify them as Class 0. Elimination protocol must be initiated immediately before they become a genuine threat. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Sarah felt her heart rate increase, but kept her expression calm. She had prepared for this. Commander Vex was nodding. The Vesh speaks wisdom. A species this aggressive, this rapidly advancing, cannot be allowed to mature. We have seen this pattern before. Young races that expand too quickly, that carry violence in their nature. They must be pruned before they endanger galactic stability. The Titaner Empire supports elimination protocol. Vex declared formally. The collective mind pulsed in agreement. Consensus achieved. Humanity represents unacceptable risk to galactic order. Elimination is logical response. Sarah stood slowly. Every eye turned to her. She was one small human facing the combined might of civilizations that span galaxies. She should have been terrified. Instead, she smiled. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly. "We do not make mistakes," the collective mind responded. "We calculate probabilities. The probability of humanity becoming a destabilizing force is 97.4%. "You're calculating wrong," Sarah said. "You're looking at our history and seeing violence. You're seeing our advancement and assuming aggression. But you're missing the most important part. Explain," one of the silent watchers commanded. Sarah gestured to the holographic display. "Show them the International Space Station. Show them the Mars colony. Show them the Lunar Research Facility." The AI complied. The hologram displayed humanity's space infrastructure, small by galactic standards, but impressive for a species so young. "Notice anything?" Sarah asked. The delegates examined the images closely. Commander Vex growled in frustration. "They are structures. Stations. What is your point?" "Look at who built them," Sarah said. The International Space Station was constructed by 14 nations that had been enemies within living memory. Russians and Americans who had aimed nuclear weapons at each other for decades. Chinese and Japanese who had fought brutal wars. Europeans who had tried to destroy each other twice in the 20th century. They all came together to build something in space. She walked slowly around the chamber as she spoke. The Mars colony? Built by a consortium of 47 nations. Every major country on Earth contributed. Nations that disagree about everything else agreed on this. The Lunar Research Facility? That's funded by countries that can barely agree on trade policies, but they found common ground to explore the moon together. Cooperation between former enemies is not unique, the collective mind stated. Many species achieve this eventually. "You're still missing it," Sarah said. She turned to face the entire assembly. "You look at human history and see war. We look at human history and see the spaces between wars. You see violence. We see the people who rush into burning buildings to save strangers. You see weapons. We see the hands that build hospitals and schools and museums. You judge us by our worst moments. We define ourselves by our best ones." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Yes, we fought wars. Terrible wars that killed millions. And between every war, we buried our dead, mourned our losses, and rebuilt. We didn't just rebuild what was destroyed. We built better. We learned. We grew. That's what you're really seeing in those advancement charts. Not just technological progress, moral progress, social progress. We're not just learning how to build better weapons. We're learning how to need them less." Commander Vex shook his massive head. "Pretty words, human, but your projections show you will match our military capacity within centuries. What happens when primitives possess star-destroying weapons?" Sarah met his golden eyes directly. "What happens when you give us a reason to build them?" The chamber went silent again. "You're afraid of what we might become," Sarah continued, "but you're creating the very thing you fear. You're talking about eliminating us because we're too violent, too dangerous. Do you think the humans who survive your elimination fleet will be peaceful? Do you think they'll forget? You'll be proving every aggressive instinct we have. You'll be teaching us that the galaxy is hostile, that cooperation is impossible, that only strength matters. She walked back to her chair, but didn't sit. Right now, humanity is at a crossroads. We can join the galactic community and learn from you. We can contribute our perspective, our energy, our ideas. We can be your allies, your partners, your friends. Or you can attack us, and we'll become exactly what you fear. Threats. The collective mind pulsed angrily. You dare threaten this assembly? Not threats, Sarah said calmly. Predictions, based on the same history you've been examining. You've seen what humans do when we're attacked. We don't surrender. We don't submit. We fight with everything we have, and we never stop fighting. Ever. She looked around the chamber one final time. The question you need to ask isn't whether we're dangerous. Every species capable of building starships is dangerous. The question is whether we're dangerous to our allies or only to our enemies. Right now, that choice is yours. Choose wisely. The silent watchers were conferring among themselves, their shadowed forms merging and separating. The collective mind pulsed in complex patterns, internal debate made visible. Commander Vex stood like a statue, his expression unreadable. Finally, the eldest of the silent watchers spoke. You present an interesting argument, Dr. Chun, but you are one voice. How do we know you represent your species? Perhaps you are an exception. Perhaps the rest of humanity is exactly as aggressive as we fear. Sarah reached into her uniform pocket. Every weapon system in the chamber activated instantly, targeting her. She moved slowly, carefully, and pulled out a small data chip. "May I?" she asked, holding it up. After a moment's hesitation, one of the silent watchers gestured permission. Sarah walked to the AI console and inserted the chip. "This contains messages," she said, "from Earth. When I left, I asked people to send me their thoughts about meeting alien civilizations. I received 17 billion responses." The hologram changed. It began displaying messages. Thousands of them, scrolling past too quickly to read individually, but creating an impression, a sense of humanity's collective voice. Messages of hope, messages of curiosity, scientists eager to learn, artists eager to share, teachers eager to educate and be educated, children asking questions about alien friends, old people hoping to see the stars before they died, messages in every human language, from every culture, every nation, every walk of life. And among them, yes, messages of fear, messages of suspicion, messages warning about the dangers of first contact. But even those messages didn't call for war. They called for caution, for preparation, for wisdom. 17 billion messages, Sarah said softly. Not all of them hopeful, not all of them trusting, but all of them engaged, all of them caring about this moment. This is humanity, complicated, contradictory, passionate, and desperately hoping that the universe is big enough for all of us. The messages continued scrolling. The chamber watched in silence. Finally, the collective mind spoke. "We must deliberate. The council will recess for one standard galactic cycle. Dr. Chun, you will remain on the station as our guest. When we return, we will deliver our judgment." The delegates began filing out. Sarah stood alone in the center of the chamber, feeling the weight of her entire species resting on her shoulders. Commander Vex paused as he passed her. He leaned down, bringing his massive head close to hers. "You spoke well, human, but words alone will not save you. We have destroyed species before. We will do so again if we must." "I know," Sarah said, "but at least you'll remember us. At least you'll know we stood here and spoke our truth. That's more than most species get." Vex studied her for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been respect. "You have courage, Dr. Sarah-chan. I hope for your sake that courage is enough." He left. The chamber emptied. Sarah was alone with her thoughts and the 17 billion messages still scrolling in the air above her head. 17 billion voices from one small planet, reaching out to the stars, hoping to be heard. She sat down in her chair and waited for judgment.